Get rid of that.
Yeah. Unmute. Hey, Don.
You're not muted, right?
Nope.
Good. Make sure you can hear him.
You hear me, Don?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Oh, nice finger. Jeez.
Oh my God, I heard about that.
That's my clown finger.
Well, it's not too clownish, really. I'm
Wow.
so sorry, Frank.
Yeah, it's a unique thing. Being careful with a wood chipper, a splitter.
Yeah.
Uh,
How much of your finger did you lose?
2 millimeters. So they used a nail clipper and took 2 millimeters of bone off at the end and folded it back over. Just did 3 stitches,
Yeah.
wrapped it with some gel stuff, and gave me the clown finger that I keep on for 1 month. They call a surgical cast.
Yeah. Could you wiggle it around in there a little?
Probably. It hurts like hell when I do it.
Yeah.
The first week I woke up in the middle of the night, and for some reason, I don't know why, I was using a hand. I'm left-handed with most things, but tools I'm right-handed with because I'm
Mm.
not ambidextrous. I was just dyslexic as a kid, and I woke up in the middle of the night because I was having a dream I was using the hand stapler.
Oh,
And it hurt so much.
God. Oh, God. Oh, it's embedded in your psyche now, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Mm.
wow.
Yeah. Make sure you get some OT when you can.
Yep.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah.
help
I
you.
go in on the 8th, the morning of the 8th in Guilford, Connecticut. The quick skinny of this is I went to a little hospital and then they sent me to Yale Medical. I
Mm.
waited 3, 4 hours for a hand surgeon and
Okay.
a hand surgeon and 2 residents. And so I'm glad I waited. And the neat thing was that I showed them all my pots. And one of the women that was there, she went to Brown University for her medical degree and did raku and threw pots in Rhode Island. So I said,
Oh,
how important this finger is.
that's right. You're going to have to train your next finger.
Yeah, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that.
Well, you should be able to still
Yeah.
use it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just going to be the nerve
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
things. And the neat thing was the doctor, very young doctor, I told him that by the time I went through graduate school, I'd done so much firing that my nerves on my end of my hands were all gone from, picking up things. And
Yeah.
it took about, what, 10 years to grow back. He goes, yeah, something like that. And he goes, yeah, nerves will eventually grow back. So I might not have any nerves
Yeah.
there.
Right. But then you have phantom limb pain.
Oh, I don't want that.
Yeah. You have to figure out how to remedy that.
Yes.
Ooh,
Is
so
that
sorry.
is that
What?
like what exactly is that? I
It's
mean,
like you have the feeling that if you have an amputation,
right.
your body, your brain remembers that nerve tissue connects and it's real. People that have amputees, like legs taken, they have horrible pain in that missing leg. It just goes, it can be really, it's
It
just
was
never ever
basically,
goes
So
away.
they actually feel the pain.
yeah.
Yes, you actually feel the pain.
But I got like, it was like a nail clip, having your nails clipped. It was only 2 millimeters. So,
Yeah, hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's lucky. I mean, God.
I was lucky. The minute it happened, I pulled my hand out. That's why the nail stayed in the glove. And they found the nail and got it back on. Hey,
Uh-huh.
Al.
They
Yeah.
put your nail back on?
Yep.
Excellent.
Let me
That's
see.
good.
Show it again. Okay,
That
I
could be
think we have to
useful.
leave.
No. Oh God. Good thing
Well,
they put the nail back on there. I was
Right.
asking if they reattached it and I think Don told me no, that they couldn't because it was crushed, but I'm so glad they got the nail back on. Hopefully it'll graft.
When they washed the hand, it was done in a walk-in surgery, whatever, a walk-in
Clinic.
clinic in whatever, the Yale
Oh,
Medical. They washed your hand with the iodine, and they lost the nail in the iodine solution. They had to go surf it out. So
yeah. Drain it out. Put
we'll
in a
see how it
strainer.
goes. On the 8th, I get
Like,
to
it'll,
like,
it'll look a little rusty
Yep.
from the betadine.
uh,
Wow.
my husband used to work at a place, and we're using their Zoom account, which is nice.
That's excellent.
Hasn't been used in a while, and I like the one you just log on to, and you don't have to
Yeah.
ask permission. So, good.
Yeah. I used to have one. They took it away from me about a year ago from UNH,
Oh, darn it.
but I got to use it for a few years. It was nice.
Yeah,
That's
Tom
good.
hasn't worked for this place since April, and he logged on, and it was just like, well, they haven't used it since July because it's a literacy volunteers of Athlone Orange 501(c) for English as a second language, and it's in disarray because the money person in Boston didn't like the way things were running, and it's a very poor town and all this other stuff. So she kind of pissed everyone off. But I don't know who's running it now. They're down to only 2 board members.
Mm.
Hopefully they'll get more. Oh, Wendy.
Hi, Kurt, with sunglasses.
Yeah, Kurt.
How's your car?
Still working on it.
It's on crutches.
Chris.
Still have some rust to fix.
Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Hey, Wendy.
By the way, the I didn't compare the links, but the one I got from Lydia didn't work. So I used the one from Carol.
Oh,
Oh, good.
you weren't on the original list? I just did a forward whatever Lydia gave me. So,
It's my phone.
oh,
They must have changed something from where I used to work because
uh,
I can't get on VPN anymore. It looks like they added more security, so I gotta fix that. And in the background is my Bluebird that I got from the New Hampshire Institute of Art.
ah,
Still
Oh,
going.
all right.
That thing moves. Keeps me and the kids all busy.
Good.
hey,
Used to have to shut it off every couple minutes. But with them helping, we can just go.
good. A lot of people coming.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Filling up.
Reverb.
That me?
You started when you joined.
What's the reverb? Why is it doing? 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 Is that better? I was on in 2 places.
Yeah, that'll
Oh,
do
okay,
that.
That'll do it.
I couldn't get anything to work on my desktop, so I'm on my phone.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone from Illinois. Oh,
Hey, Carol.
Hi, how you
Carol.
doing, Carol?
I'm good. It's crazy. It's 80 degrees here.
Oh,
Wow.
we're
We'll get
getting
that
that this
We're
week.
we're gonna have
Yeah,
that
it's
on
coming.
Thursday. Yeah, Thursday we'll do that here. Yeah.
Oh. There were a few snow flurries yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes.
got them too. Yeah.
Me too. Yep.
My friend
For
up in
about 10 minutes. Yeah.
my friend up in Bethlehem had 2 or 3 inches.
Oh,
It didn't stick to the road, but it stuck to his bushes and everything else.
yeah.
So,
First snow is beautiful.
Yeah,
yeah,
just
I'll take mine.
I
and
said
put
first snow.
Yeah.
First snow. Yeah.
I just put in the chat the link to the YouTube video. I put that on public view so anybody can see it that gets into YouTube. So if you
Okay.
want to distribute that amongst the guild, that's great.
Great. Thank you.
I'm
What
gonna
is it
read-
under? What do we have to look? The link is there. Okay.
The link is there, yeah.
All right.
I may revisit that this winter if I get bored, but right now it's what it is. And I'll add the
Great.
I'm working on a first firing video too, but my fall has been kind of crazy. So
And when we're done with this meeting, I'll do the same thing. I'll upload it to something and save it on YouTube so it's off this account and everyone can look at it
sure.
publicly. So welcome all to the meeting. So far we have 15 people. That's nice. I think I don't know how many more are coming. 6:05. It's being recorded. Is Belinda coming, Eric?
I believe so.
Okay. Wait another minute. I was hoping that you two would be here because I thought you'd be the lead, seeing it was you were the heads of the leads of the kiln. It'd be nice if you led the meeting on your thoughts first, and then we get back to it. I guess for me, thinking of an agenda for tonight, I was thinking about when I was in grad school, and Chris Guston taught a class on teaching, and it was really nice. And he told us how to do a critique and how you start saying something nice, go into the crit and something nice. I thought that's what we would do tonight, and talk about what our feelings were and going forward, and just go from there and see how it all works out.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have any trouble at all saying a lot of nice things about the firing.
No, it was great.
It was wonderful. Yep.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the kiln log, trying to make some sense out of it. It's a little bit chaotic. So I guess that's one of the things on our list is to kind of standardize our kiln log entry. But I guess the main issue that I saw with our last firing was the temperature in the front kind of got away from us. And it looks like at about 5 p.m. on our second day, so that was like right after we started burning in reduction, our spark arrestor got clogged. So we opened the damper to try to get more draft through the kiln, but that obviously didn't help. Once we removed that, we probably should have tucked the damper back in to slow the draft down, because it was really pretty strong. Oh, too strong for until 8:30 that night.
Eric,
yes.
At 5, was cone 01 down just about everywhere?
5.
I thought the spark arrestor clogged before we really wanted to go into reduction.
Well, we wanted to start kind of dirtying up the flame at like 06 in the front.
And for those, there were a couple of people that weren't there. We had the mesh stainless steel spark arrestor at the top of the flue, and
Top of the chimney.
top of the chimney. And I woke up from a nap and noticed that no smoke was coming out of it when I came down the hill.
Yeah.
And it completely clogged with carbon, and that was somewhere between 3 and 5, right?
Yeah, and the note says 5 o'clock. Kurt went up and tapped on it, and then I came up and took it off. So somewhere around there. It looks like
the temperature went down.
Yeah.
Before we cleared it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but your point is that once we cleared it, there was, I'm just going to interject that there was also a whole lot of extra fuel in the kiln on the pots from getting so sooty. So that could have contributed to the jump in temperature once we cleared the spark arrestor. It's a little complicated, but I get your point that we do have to keep an eye on how much it jumps once we change something.
Yeah, it was just too much air.
Yeah,
looking in there, seeing the flame, it was pretty much going horizontal across the chamber as fast as it possibly could move, and it was just making it uneven, hot in the front.
we had also started opening the damper before we knew what was wrong.
And then we didn't tuck it back in after that.
Ah,
Mm,
okay.
mhm.
So
Can I ask a question?
yes,
Do you have a spark arrestor on there because you think you need it or because that's just what people do? Like, is it a safety thing, like for real, or is it just we feel like we need it?
It's just in case, as far as I know.
So, so I've never fired a wood kiln that didn't clog up with a spark arrestor on it, which makes me wonder, like, if we can get up there, can't we just put it on after you have a certain temperature when the sparks are actually more of an issue? Because you're really not pulling in the early part. You're not really pulling anything that's flammable or any sparks in, up that high until later when it's hotter. And if
Did
it's,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
Did the one on the Fushigiyama clog?
Multiple times.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. We almost blew up the
That
chimney
had a
three
lot more
times.
area.
Mm.
Eh,
So my only thought is that, like, if you're not really in danger of having sparks early anyway, and you know that you want to more or less body reduce for whatever that that term, then why not plan on just putting the cage over the thing, like after body reduction?
Is
This is
that
the thought.
possible?
Then you don't have to worry about the damper and stuff.
Is it easy to do it at that point?
not
Well,
really. I would think that if we really need if we believe we need a spark arrestor once that thing is roaring, we need to build something that we can operate from the ground to move it into place.
Okay.
yeah. Once that staging comes off the roof, it's not going to be easy to get up there.
Not at all.
Now it's pretty steep.
I wasn't around, but my understanding is we used a leftover piece from the other Onagama kiln, so it was the same fine mesh, Chris, that was on that one.
Right.
I think that
Yeah,
was
3/8
mesh was
mesh.
the problem too.
I see.
Might be too tight. It's 3/8 mesh.
I
For
think
sure.
if we go more open, it with the mesh size, is it doing anything, or are the sparks just bypassing the mesh anyways?
Yeah, probably just gonna go past it.
I mean, we never had one before, right?
Right.
Right.
Aren't we a little concerned about the condition of the roof?
No.
Isn't that why we had it?
No.
No.
The-
That's
it's
the middle.
You mean the joists under
Yeah.
the roof?
Yes.
But
That's a
that's
different
another
issue.
that's
Yeah.
another topic.
Okay.
The reason why we have a spark arrestor, in my opinion, is that when the fire company comes, I'd like to be able to say, we have a spark arrestor on top of it. They're not going to go up there and check it. They just will check it off on their list and maybe give us a little less trouble.
Yeah.
Can't we
Hmm.
get a big mesh spark arrestor that would satisfy the bill? We can say, we have a spark arrestor. We don't have to tell them how tight it is.
We could.
The only
Um,
concern is that in subsequent firings, the issue is still going to be there of clogging.
Mhm.
hmm
So
Unless
it's a
we
matter
open
of
it up.
like if there's a commitment to keeping it, and I can tell you in Sharon, the fire marshal who lived across the street just wanted his answer was to have somebody sit in a chair with a hose at all times looking at the chimney. To which we said, we will do that, which I
We
can't
can't do that.
honestly say we did, but but the same issue is going to come up. So it's just a matter of troubleshooting that. Otherwise, you're going to have to open the damper again to burn it out, clear it out, which is kind of counterintuitive to body reduction in the first place at such a low temperature. And then you have to remember to put the damper back in.
Yeah, but once it's clogged, the damper doesn't have any effect.
Now,
Yeah.
So we would have to stay ahead of that, and I just don't think that's a viable thing. So we could, it sounds like we have two options. One, make a new one from stainless steel wire cloth that has at least a half-inch openings in it and try that. That might not clog. Or we could take the one we have and put it in a frame on a hinge with some mechanism to operate it from the ground.
Ah, what a clever idea.
Yeah.
Of course, Kurt would think of that.
Mhm.
I'll think about it some more.
Okay.
There's a way to do it. So can we
Seems
get back to the firing log?
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, I think that area is where we kind of went awry as far as keeping the front from racing. And at that point, it went on a little too long, and we couldn't slow it down at that point.
Well, we did. And at that point, we made several adjustments that made it stop from going out of total control. Because we would have had 14 down much earlier and none of the cones at the back of the Onagama. But those adjustments was the right time to make them for that call. But now we know for the next firings, it needs to be happening earlier. And Eric and I have talked about putting indicator cones in the front so that we have that clue to say, okay, now this cone is moving. Let's start to close down the air. And we noticed even on the back chamber, when we were trying to put down cone 10, the very end of the firing, it took the slightest amount of air adjustment for us to do that within a short amount of time. Sorry if I cut you off, Eric.
No, that's actually, I wanted you two to talk about the firing because it was you two were the lead, and that's why it was good to talk about it. Because you two binged and banged off each other.
Yeah. I guess my point is that we should have made some adjustments like a couple hours earlier than we did. Which we'll know better for next time, just to keep an eye on that. It'd be nice to kind of take it up to cone 7 and just sort of slowly raise it from there up to 10, 11.
Yeah, but the first thing to help avoid that again is not to clog the park arrestor.
Yeah.
So what were the adjustments that were made? And would that be particular just to this firing, or would we be able to be aware of that to use those same adjustments next time if that same issue happens?
Yeah. Basically just, I think we pushed the damper in a little bit, but the main adjustment was to block up the primary air quite a bit. And that's going to be something that we're going to be doing probably every firing. It was wide open, the air in the front, so it was just too much draw.
Yeah.
We added 3 out of the 4 bricks, right? Is that what we did?
Yep. But I think other than that, it was a pretty good firing for a first time.
I think it was wonderful.
Yeah. So
Sure seemed easy.
it did. That's good. It's enough work. Anyways, it might as well.
Yeah.
Too much of a struggle.
I think in the future, just because it was our first firing, but the next firing is put a few more cones in the middle and the bottom that we can't see just to see they were, because in the back towards the flue was colder. Because I have some pieces that are a little under fired, cone 8 or so. Just know how to to do that, but that could be, like you said, the drawer, and it took Belinda said you took a while, then you finally slowed when you readjusted the end of the firing, you slowed the fire flame down even more, correct? To get the back 10 down?
In the second chamber, we it just a little bit more air.
Okay.
That increased the draft slightly, but at that point, cone, I think 9 had been like hanging out there throughout the whole kiln for I think a couple hours.
Mhm.
When we gave it just that little bit more air. I don't have the kiln log in front of me. Eric has it, but it was just a little bit more air, and then those last couple cones in the second chamber, the catenary chamber, went down.
So what happened to the area at the side stoke where there were some pieces that weren't completely fired?
We're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember, let me interject here. I remember saying that next time you would possibly reconfigure the pieces, the height of the figure of the pieces that were on the floor back there to change the airflow. Did you mention something about that, Belinda? You and Eric were discussing that at one point.
Yeah. So in the back of the Anagama, we had, Eric, I believe it was a 9-inch posting on the floor.
Yep.
And we had talked about moving it down to maybe a 6-inch posting to hope that that the flame will go, because it was skipping. So by tightening up the bottom there, the thought is that the flame would want to go up before it's going down to exit out of the flue.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we're putting enough in the side stoke? Wood?
Seemed like we had a pretty good coal bed.
Yeah.
I think it was up to maybe like a foot deep at one point. So
Yeah, that means we were putting in enough wood. So
yeah.
Can I ask, when did you start?
Down low might help, but increasing the draft, opening up the path down low sounds like the first thing to try.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Chris.
When did you guys start side stoking? Like what temperature?
Oh, about 2200, somewhere around there.
For what it's worth, I might suggest side stoking much, much earlier. Not and to be clear, not to raise temperature at all, but to pressurize the tube. So like in this, I just fired last week down in Mass, and we actually went as low as 1600 that we started side stoking. And again, it's just pieces here and there, and the idea is to like train the kiln to travel along the floor and to keep the pressure enough in the Anagama chamber that it pushes heat down. Otherwise, it's just going to go up all the time, no matter how high you make the floor. And in another kiln that I fire down south, we've started doing the same thing. Just like before body reduction, we're already side stoking, and it seems to. It's not that it heats the back, but later on it keeps sort of an equilibrium between the back and the front, so that it's even all the way.
Sounds like you're preheating the back in a sense, so that the draft will follow the
right.
warm.
So it's not about heat at all. It's simply about momentum and setting, like carving out a path for the heat to be attracted to as the whole thing gets hotter.
That's a good idea.
And
the trick is,
oh, go ahead.
Well, the trick is just like with any kiln, it's like, what's the magic time to do it, right? Like, but 99% of the time, what I'm, just personally over the last few years, I've noticed like it should be earlier than ever, I think. Seems to work better.
You mean,
And one other question I had, I don't know why I didn't ask the question, but in one of my when we started doing the back, I was using the oak pencils from the steak place. And when I came back 8 hours later, it was all just the bigger pieces of pine being used. And we weren't using the oak anymore. I don't know why we changed.
That was probably to burn down the coal bed.
Yeah.
would be my guess.
Yeah, because we didn't get a big coal bed with it. That's why I was, those
Well,
are-
you guys built a good coal bed using the hardwood.
Right.
And we switched to pine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Why not mix?
yeah.
We were.
No, I
Okay.
don't think it was mixed.
We were
Yeah.
mixing the side stokes. We were using like two pieces in one, and sometimes we'd go back and forth.
Oh, you
We
were?
mixing
Okay.
it. Yes. When I was on my shifts, we were mixing.
Depending on what the coal bed was doing, we were
Yes.
adjusting.
Yes.
What else, Eric?
Well,
Hmm.
that seems to be the main issue that I saw was just catching that rise in the front early enough so that we're not letting it run away. And I think, like Chris said, starting side stoke earlier seems like a good way to kind of slow down and pressurize the chamber. So we should definitely try that next time. As far as the rest of the firing, I mean, the back chamber seemed to be dead even and
Yeah.
not many issues back there. So
Good
I guess
ash deposits, and I had 6 cups back there and a couple other things, but there was very good ash deposit, and it was very nice.
Yeah.
Area.
So I think just slowing down, around cone 7 and kind of letting it marinate for a while before we just bring it up to cone whatever. 11 would be nice, but
Well,
somewhere
so
around
if
there.
you want to hold 7, then that means we need to watch the thermocouples so that we don't fall behind. So
Yep.
if the temperature goes down, 7 already bent. It's not going to bend again. So it sounds like we need to keep watching the thermocouples until we want to go above cone 7. And then maybe cones are enough.
Were the cones accurate at that temperature?
Were the cones accurate or the
Not the cones, the pyrometer.
Parameter.
yeah?
I think
It's hard to say, but the stability is really what matters, and the rate of change if it's changing. So even unless the reading is jumping around, which means it's not good, but as long as it's a steady reading, it could be off by quite a bit and still help as long as it's stable, that is repeatable over time. And it doesn't drift, the accuracy doesn't drift. So that it represents the same, so that the reading represents the same temperature in the kiln, which is similar to the conditions that would affect the cones. Not exactly. I mean, you hold it a given temperature and eventually another cone will bend. But I'm just saying that, well,
So
I'm thinking about a standardized kiln log. And Frank, I was gonna respond, but I think this is a good forum that if we want a standard spreadsheet, I think we should look at the kiln log for guidance because, at the beginning, it's more important to watch the temperature. Later on, not so much. We need to watch the cones. And also, from the kiln log, we can get a better idea of how much space we need for comments and whether or not we should just have a section at the bottom of the page for comments with date and time. So that would be a repeated entry, but still it might be a neater spreadsheet so that we don't have lots of empty space, like where there's no comment or where nobody's watching cones, that kind of thing.
My thought just on that.
Just to repeat myself, it's the kiln log that we have, I think, is a good guide for the layout.
I think you're right. Yeah. It shows you what you need to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, it may mean, oh yeah, so it may mean different layout for different stages. And if cone 7 is where we're going to hold, that's probably going to be the more complicated layout. It's going to have temperatures and cones, whereas not necessarily both on other pages.
The reason why I did the layout I did is because it was hard to read our kiln log morphed from the beginning, after
Oh yeah.
Does that every time.
Yeah, I'm all for a nice template to fill in. And by the way, you got a computer, so next time we do it, if we don't like it,
we
can change it.
So do you think about to add the graph?
Oh.
Yeah. So sometimes visually you can see the temperature and the time and the holding. That's easy to do that.
Because Kurt, you were making a graph along the way.
Yes, I was. By hand. And actually, I think by hand works pretty well because otherwise you've got to have some special equipment if you want to. I mean, you could. No, you could do it in a spreadsheet. You could do it in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, sure.
But yes, we could do that if we're entering data. But then, that means we've got to have a computer going. So in the moment, a page or a few pages with the grids on them could be very handy for graphs. And every once a shift or so, somebody can take the data and plot it, or every hour even, which is probably better. But yeah, that's a good point. I think another argument to try to be thrifty with page space so that only what needs to be on that page for that phase of the firing is there, and like I said, maybe the comments section can just be one space. We can always jump to another page once part of it gets full, but might be possible to fit a graph on that page as well, especially if it's 11/517. A handmade graph. Now that also, the axes for that might need to change for different stages of the fire, so we can get a good look at it instead of having most of it be empty. So, max temperature might be 1,000 degrees on the first page, and the minimum temperature might be 2,000 degrees on one of the other.
That sounds good.
Does.
So, Eric, you mentioned that, I think you said a lot of potters in Japan will hold the kiln at, I don't know if it's cone 7, they have different cones anyway, but they'll hold it for days and days, and then bang, they'll bring it up real fast. Want to talk about that?
I don't remember saying that, but I'm not sure they bring it up real fast. But yeah, I think the idea is to kind of build up a nice coating of ash and then melt it.
Yeah.
In reduction, and then, you know, however you want to finish the kiln off after that. But I think there's something to be said for sort of slowly going through those upper cones, giving the material time to sort of melt and build a depth of layer. So
For what it's worth, I fired in a couple of different kilns, Anagamas, where we just use basically 8 and then 10 and then 11 and then 12, and those are our hold spots. And we have a minimum hold of 12 hours at each of those. This last firing I just did, we held it at cone 11 for 36 hours. And that way
Whoa.
it gave us a buffer of if we did knock 112 down, but we had all the 12s at like 2 o'clock, just perfect. But they didn't just get there, they were there for a while. But it's just holding. I don't know about, I've never heard cone 7, but like 8 is like where I fire often is the first hold, and that's a
And
minimum of 12 hours.
that's sticky enough for ash
Right.
to to a unglazed body.
Yeah. And what you're doing is ensuring that when you open the kiln, if you remember at the opening, that some stuff looked visually very melted, but had a little, just a fine sandpaper quality to them, to the touch. And it's probably just in those last cones, like it wasn't there more than say 10 hours, probably wasn't there more than like 6 hours or so in certain spots. And so just by, if you just use like cone 8, cone 10, cone 11, like those are your hold cones, and that's where a pyrometer is really helpful. You look at your trough and you look at your height and say a whole shift, your job is to keep it within that, say, 40-degree range. And in that way, you use the pyrometer to help determine the wood size and all of that kind of stuff.
Does Gustin have data loggers still? Is he still
No,
using?
he's never had data. Well, we're the data loggers.
He did for a little while, but
Yeah, no.
it looks like he has 4 displays.
5.
5. Okay.
So 5 in that, and so there's a time where if it, to what you guys were talking about earlier, if the front is a little hot, you can, use oak, which has a longer flame, and we can shoot for, the third pyrometer back. Like we stoke on that peak, you ignore the front, just ignore whatever numbers you see. And when the third one peaks, that's where the hottest part of the flame is. You fire for that.
Is he still using platinum thermocouples?
I don't know. That I don't know. But I think holding it multiple places, like in your 8 through 11 range, may be a benefit there. And that'll certainly, like you said, Kurt, like melt everything, and it'll look wet and feel wet rather than look wet and feel a little chalky.
That's what we did at Salem Artworks. He brought up to cone 8 for one day, cone 9 the next day.
Yep.
Cone 10 the 11th day, and then played with it after that. So
yeah,
fired it off.
And at the end, if you just use pine and don't touch anything, it works out really well. You don't want to use, we tend not to use oak when we're in the 12 range.
Because of all the calcium? Or
yeah, just because I mean, things that burn have a texture to them.
It's a heavier ash and it takes longer to melt.
Right.
So. So that's all I really have to say about this past firing.
I talk a little bit about last Saturday. We had a wood prep day. There were 9 people here, working their butts off, I must say. We all worked very hard for maybe 6 or 7 hours. And we have now 8 beehives mixed hardwood, mostly oak and pine, and I'd say it's equal amounts of each. We still have 8 bundles that arrived 2 weeks ago that can be cut up. But with 8 beehives already there, plus some scraps and other stuff underneath tarps and underneath the little shed that Ig built, we have enough for an April firing and a June firing. I don't think we've ever been this prepared in advance with dry.
I don't either.
It was a lot easier wood prepping and working in the cool weather, I'll tell you that.
Do we want to talk about trying to narrow down a date for maybe April for our next firing, or
Sure.
is it too soon? I guess the driveway is going to indicate when we can actually get up there.
Right. We could do that now, or we could kind of think about it and finalize it at the kiln committee meeting on November 17th. And I've talked with the Tarnos, and they're fine with the kiln committee coming at 12:30 instead of 1, so we could meet from 12:30 to noon. And I also want to put the word out that with the bigger kiln, I think we need a bigger kiln committee with people taking more responsibility, because we fired it pretty informally over the years, sometimes with only well, let's say between 5 and 8 people organizing it. We're going to need more. Just saying.
Yeah.
And Frank and I also brainstormed a list of what ideally needs to be done before the next firing, including, or maybe number 1, replacing and or moving rafters and fireproofing them. And I also want to put out the word that, anybody who wants to join the kiln committee and take an active role in it is welcome to join if you're not already on it.
And Lydia would like to take a back seat, so we'll take more people, please.
I'd like to do less.
Yes. You've done so much over the years. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you all are interested, I can include you on the email with the agenda that has been typed up, that I've typed up so far, and also just say that if you have anything you want to add to the agenda, please let me know and we'll put it on there.
Good.
Lydia, you mentioned the wooden trusses. I think you used the word fireproofing.
Fire retarding.
We did confirm that just removing the mineral wool protected the wood. So I think that although we might want to move one of the trusses a little further away, I'm not convinced it's necessary, but I do think we should remove all the mineral wool between the sheet metal and the wood, because air works better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think long term, we're definitely going to want to move one of those trusses back, maybe a half foot or so.
The one that smoked?
The one that was about to burn. For peace of mind, so we don't have to look up there every 10 minutes and wonder if it's going to catch on fire.
I agree with you.
Since we don't have a hose.
It wouldn't be
it
wouldn't be that big of a project, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think we need to put like a metal up there instead of a wood for the truss?
Oh no, a metal shield works very well as long as it's properly installed with an airspace between it and the wood and enough space away from the hot surface.
So how would that be done? I mean, I'm thinking about on the wall behind my wood stove, I have sheet metal that's spaced out with, I think they're electric fence porcelain pieces. And that seems to be really effective in keeping the
Sure.
wall from
We've got-
getting hot. So would we do strips along the bottom of the
Oh,
rafters or kind of,
no. I think it would look very similar, except there wouldn't be mineral wool.
yeah, okay.
And one of the trusses would move a little further away from the chimney. That's all. Oh,
Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah, there's just not enough space up
Right.
there at the moment.
I was surprised though, at Belinda's to look at that steel shield there and the rafter next to it, how close it was to the chimney and how small the space was, and it's fine.
Yeah, shorter firing too.
Well, yeah, and smaller count.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't really take much of an airspace between the metal and the wood to give good cooling.
Interesting. Okay.
I think all in all, we're going in a very positive direction for the New Hampshire Potters Guild to have a large scale operating underground kiln.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a gentleman, Ken, I forget his last name now, that built the same thing. I follow on Instagram in Maine, and he just did his catenary for the first time alone in the fall. So it'll be interesting to hear about that. But
Yeah.
I think for us, it would be nice to do at least the April and maybe the New England Wood Firing Conference as a whole kiln. And I'd like to start advertising on the social medias a little more. We can talk about that at the kiln committee about the New England wood firing, because we all struggled this year. Not struggled. I struggled making pots, but I spent a lot of weekends laying brick, which was more important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And than making pots. And I know my goal this winter is have a collection of pots for going forward with this kiln. But I was surprised how many pots we did need. And it was nice that everyone came up and brought a lot of stuff. And I think in the future, it's something we'll all have extra pieces bringing there, and maybe just organize tables by size, not by artist and potter, and go forward with that. And it's going to be very exciting for me to see the progression on this kiln going forward.
Yeah.
Especially the inaugural firing went so well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just 2 cents. I would like to say that the organization of putting the firing scheduling together with the shifts and the log on the wall and everybody knowing what they were going to do was really helpful and positive. And I don't know if, there are other ways we need to improve it, but it gives me a positive feeling thinking back on how that went.
Yeah, that was very
Helpful.
Wasn't the easiest thing, Lydia.
No.
No.
And thank
Thanks,
goodness
Lydia.
some people proofread it to see where I repeated some people on 2 shifts in a row.
And even then, we didn't catch a couple. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all of that just seemed to work really well ahead of time and afterwards.
Right. And I think it's also a really positive idea to have, a policy and procedures group to, to kind of look at the firing in more detail and kind of outline some procedures for it. And then also to look at the possibilities of offering workshops of different types. So I have several people who said that they're interested in that. And I think the winter time would be a really good time to work on it, hopefully. Because everybody seems to be really busy, especially in the summertime. So if we can get the more that can be done on that in the late fall and early winter would be great.
And it's like we need to work some of that out before we start like advertising and promoting our next two.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So Lydia, you know, I've offered to you, and I've talked to a few people, you know, any of the templates that we had from New Hampshire Institute of Art and Sharon Arts Center in terms of running different tiered workshops, in terms of price point and how it got organized, I'm happy to just give that over to the Kiln Committee, just as a starting point, if that helps.
I think that'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank you. Mm.
So Lydia and I have talked about if the guild is interested in workshops, there's an idea of having tiered workshops where maybe a guild member leads a firing, but is designated the kind of main person, so that there's a point of organization there. And then you might have also a different price point for maybe an artist that not everybody knows, is not a huge name nationally or internationally, but comes in as a visitor, and then once in a while have maybe a national figure. And just on that point, both Bruce Thainer and Chris Guston would be very happy. I know for a fact they'd be very happy to come fire for the New Hampshire Potters Guild, and run a workshop if that ever is of interest. But I'm happy to work with the Kiln Committee, Lydia. I just been busy lately, but if you want, we can still sort of follow up on that.
Definitely.
Okay.
Just reach out when you have a moment.
Right. So
gig.
I have a question about, were we still planning to, like in the next firing and the June firing, still planning to do 4-day firings? If we're going to be soaking the kiln and soaking the cone times, should we be having a 5-day firing? And I know that puts a lot of, that's a lot more work and a lot more stress, and it's probably more wood. I'm not really sure, but I think we need to discuss that, when we're making our plans. Just a thought process. What do you think about that, Eric or Belinda?
Yeah, there may be a way to structure our timeline within that 4 days where we get to that soak point sooner, so we have more time to hang out there.
Okay.
We'll have to kind of map it out and just see. I'm all for having a 5-day firing. I think that'd be great, but
yeah, I think the idea of soaking at, I'm just gonna say 8, 10, and 11 means you can jump from cone 8 to cone 10 pretty quickly and then soak there, right?
Yep.
Instead of trying to creep up slowly. And so you're creating a new environment for ash to stick differently or whatever's going to happen, with glazes, etc. But you're saving time in between those soak points.
Yeah.
Well, and like Eric said, also in future firings, we'll be able to go slightly faster. The earlier part, this last firing, we went especially slow because we were firing the kiln, and we needed to make sure that the kiln was cured and not compromised.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Big point. The slowness of the beginning part of the firing, and then also as in the 4-day firing, we fired the Anagama what is it, like 3.5 days. So we could have gone with the Anagama longer and started firing the second chamber a little bit sooner so that we have more of that soaking time in the Anagama, but still finishing off with the 4 days. If we were to go into a 5-day firing, we would just need to make sure the people who are signing up for it or the crew that's on board is all on board with that. And we're
Right. Sure. You cut out, Belinda. But I think we understand what you were saying.
Mhm.
A 5-day, a 4-day firing is a big commitment with it was a 2-day loading and then the 4-day firing and then a whole day to unload. It's a big time constraint for some people.
We're talking about changing a few things, and it may be a little early to try to go to a 5-day firing. Maybe we should just see how we do with without clogging the spark arrestor, and going to different soak points where we save a lot of time in between. I think that's enough change right there
Mhm.
to stick with a 4-day firing and see how we do. Usually when you're doing an experiment, if you change more than one thing at a time, you don't know what's going on.
True.
Keep it control.
Yeah, one consideration with the wood firing conference is that, if I remember right, on the website, they say the firing takes place in most kilns. So I think there is room for a variation. Most kilns, it takes place between the 18th and the 25th.
That's 7
So,
days.
That's a week.
That's
but
7
that's-
days.
But that's taking, 2 days of loading, and then
Loading.
how many days of cooling?
The
Um,
whole thing.
Yeah,
How much for the burn?
right. How
Right.
much for the burn? I guess they do have some that start before the 18th, but the schedules haven't been posted yet, so that's still to be determined.
Right. So that we'd have to load on the 14th or the 7th or something like that.
Mhm. And I did send Trevor some new pictures and a new blurb to at least get started with
Good.
the some updated information on the kiln.
Thank you, Lydia.
Oh, you're welcome. And the other thing too is that the website, the guild website, really badly needs to be updated pretty much everywhere. But especially to reflect the change, that there is a new kiln now. So it'd be nice to get that done by the 1st of the year. And
Lots to talk about
I
on our
did a-
kiln meeting.
what?
Yeah. There'll be a lot to talk about on our kiln committee meeting.
Yes, there will be. I don't want to take up time tonight.
So in updating the website, we need someone to write up some new information pertaining so that Pam will post it.
Mhm.
Yeah, the way she works, you have to give her the finished project, all the text that you want and all the photos, because she doesn't write. So she'll put it up. And I did ask Suzanne if she would help with that as a writer. And I'd like to also ask Al, because he's a fabulous writer.
Sure.
All right. And
Carol's always saying that she proofreads everything that she ever reads, so she would be a good proofreader for us.
Who's that?
Carol.
Yeah.
Okay.
And always proofread and edit a draft. Always glad to do it.
Okay, great. And I can actually, or somebody else can start by just asking Pam to remove things that are seriously out of date. So
Yeah. Good idea.
just kind of clean it up a little bit.
I mean, just my thought was the kiln page should just be called History Kiln. Change that and keep that information because it's part of a history and start a whole new kiln page.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. Nice to see this progression of what and how we worked with it and now how we gained ideas and we're in the next phase.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Are we at an end?
I think we're good. This was great. Thank you so much for organizing this.
Yeah.
I'll get
Yeah,
it.
Lydia and
that's right.
Frank.
Get it on the YouTube.
Frank.
Go back and look at it again.
Yeah.
I think it's helpful.
And
And
thanks.
an amazing job with the collaboration and the hard work and everything that went into the first firing and the unloading and everything. Really
Very
amazing.
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
Great
much
to see.
thanks to good leadership.
that's what it
Right.
was.
And thanks, Neil, for the photographs, collating the photographs. I'm looking forward to seeing that YouTube.
Yeah, me too.
No problem.
And thank you again, Belinda and Eric, for all your hard work.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Thank
absolutely.
you. And thank you, Barbara, for
Hey.
keeping track of the details.
Yay.
It's we all work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good meeting.
Good meeting. Good.
Okay,
Great.
thank you all.
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
you.
Good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Bye.
See you the 17th. See you the 17th.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well,
How do I get out of this?